What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences. And more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends. Join us tonight because we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I'm Bryon Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live. What's up, Av Geeks? It's Wednesday, which could only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of SuperAero Live. And you know what? Separately, someone in the chat was saying that it was on Ryan Standard Time, but we are on time tonight. We hit it exactly on time. The intro didn't totally work, but we were on time tonight. I want to make sure you guys know about last week's episode with Tuskegee Bloodline. If you'd missed that one, go check it out. We had a lot of fun. Maybe convinced me to go skydiving. Maybe. Yeesh. Also, tune in next week. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be the 50th episode. And kind of a cool thing for our guest tonight, I don't know if she realizes it, this is the 1-year anniversary of this crazy experiment tonight. Didn't get it quite lined up with the 50th, but 1-year anniversary. Pretty cool. I can't believe we've been doing this for a year together. You guys are the best. Last but not least, we mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned in the last week's show, but Tango and Juliet, we talked a little bit about Tango and Juliet. The GoFundMe is in the description for this video, and you guys have you've helped already raise over $30,000, which is amazing, for their kids, which is just super cool. This community is amazing, and I've seen you guys throwing money down to help out their family, and that's just it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. But enough about that stuff. Let's talk with our guest tonight. The amazing Sharon Raub is here. There she is.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. People are in the chat are saying that I look too serious tonight. So I don't know how to.
All right, let's get this going. Get this exciting.
We'll get it. Let's loosen up a little bit.
Do it.
Sharon, you of course, very well known on Instagram for your adventures as a photographer, as an aircraft broker, and of course, last but not least, a pilot. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I think maybe, for folks who don't know you, it'd be good just to start with, like, what's the elevator pitch? Like, who are you? Where'd you come from?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been a huge fan of the show. In fact, when you said tonight that it just started about a year ago, I was like, well, holy cow. It means I've been here almost since the beginning. So now I'm super honored. Congrats on a whole year. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for coming along. That's so cool.
Absolutely. Well, I am so excited to be here. I think you're awesome. Anyway, so I'm Sharon, and I guess I'm best known for buying and selling airplanes. It's kind of what I do. But honestly, I'm just a girl who's crazy about aviation. I'm one of those people that I like to blend. I tell people that I took all my hobbies and just started making them work. And so that's both good and bad. It means I never actually stop working, but I get to do what I love every day, which is pretty awesome. So I work for a company that buys and sells diamond aircraft. And then I also have a business on the side, shooting weddings and other things. So I like to say I don't let the grass grow under my feet too much, but it's definitely awesome to be a part of the show, and more importantly, this awesome aviation community. It's freaking rocks.
Yeah, I mean, the best part of doing this show for a year, right, has been getting to know people like you, like people like just like expanding the network of this beautiful aviation family. And I think I owe you an apology, by the way. Like, we were both at Sun and Fun, and we were just
that's right.
We were ships in the night doesn't work for airplanes. Were we Zeppelins?
Yeah. I think I DM'd you and I was like, hey, you were like by my booth. I didn't see you or something like that. Because we had like talked a little bit earlier in the week, like, hey, are you going to be at Sun and Fun? And I was there. And honestly, it was crazy, but it was such a cool week. I'm sure you've already talked about it on here, but that was awesome. It was a really great way to see the aviation community come together. And honestly, it felt like a reunion of a bunch of old friends more than anything else, which was really awesome.
You know, we not to like totally go down a divergent path, but we haven't talked about Sun and Fun too much. If you had to give like the 2 bullet point overview of what you thought of the show, I'm sure people would be interested to hear that, because I think for a lot of people it's just like they just saw it on here, right?
Yeah.
Those of us who were lucky enough to go and be there, I don't know, what was your Sun and Fun experience?
Yeah. So from what I'm told, it broke all the previous records for like tickets sold and attendees, which is awesome if you think about it. Excuse me. If you think about it, I think a lot of people were just ready to get out of the house and fly places and do things. But honestly, you know, Ryan, based on my experience in aviation since COVID started, it's really not at all surprising. I think the biggest thing about my business and, you know, what I do buying and selling planes and marketing in aviation is that I realized that, you know, when COVID hit, one of the biggest things we thought was, hey, like, is everything going to take a nosedive? Are planes going to sell anymore? Is anyone even interested in flying? And the crazy thing is, like, people are flying and buying planes more than ever before. And I think it's kind of given people a wake-up call, like, hey, aviation is my passion. It's where my dreams lie. I want to pursue it. And so I think for a lot of people, things like Sun and Fun have kind of made that come full circle. And it was just really cool to see nonstop people coming by. I think it was extremely successful overall.
I was blown away by how many, at first, because I hadn't gotten out much. Case in point.
No, me too.
I was blown away, and separately a little freaked out at first, just like all the people.
No masks.
Yeah, but I got invited. Martin Pauly, who's another aviation YouTuber, was down there, and he invited me to this party at Coconut Flyers, and he's like, "Yeah, come on, man, it's my birthday." He's like, come to this party. And I like walked up. I'm like, all right, like I'm going to do this. I'm going to be social. And I just saw like all the people and I was like, I can't do it. I'm not ready.
You know, it was weird. A lot of people came up and they were just like, this is so strange. Like, I feel like it's a throwback to 2018, 2019. Right. But I think everybody had a great time. It was very successful, I know, for our company and for, I think, every other company that I know who was there. So makes me even more excited for Oshkosh, all the other cool events we have coming up. So, yeah, it was awesome.
Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot about that, but it just occurred to me that we missed each other. So let's go back, though. Let's get back on topic here. So... and that's mostly for me, obviously. You're just answering the question.
I'm just here to talk.
Let's talk about like the Sharon origin story. So you've talked a lot of. I think what's cool about your career and what you mentioned at the top of the hour is you've got the photography side of what you do, you've got the piloting side of what you do, and then you're mashing those things together in your day job as a broker and marketing and things like that. Which came first for you? Was it the photography stuff or the airplane stuff or?
Yeah, you know, that's a funny story because I couldn't even honestly tell you. I just have this vivid memory of me as a little girl. I was probably, I don't know, 7 years old. And I begged my parents for one of those little like blue, it wasn't really a digital camera yet, you know, back in the dark ages, but it wasn't quite a film camera. I remember begging my parents for a camera. And at the time, my dad was really interested in like space and engineering. He was not a pilot, but he was he thought it was cool. So I vividly remember taking a camera to the airport and watching planes take off and land while I played with my new camera and took pictures. So it was a side-by-side thing. I was that girl who was obsessed with two things, flying and, you know, taking pictures. And it's kind of funny that it's come so far in that way. But I was definitely encouraged in both of those things by my parents, which was awesome. My dad, like I said, would take us to the airports and things like that. I think the part where my story is a little bit interesting is because I was raised in a very unusual home. And so while we were, while my dad encouraged that love of aviation and flying and taking pictures, it was never something that was really encouraged as a career. So I had two older brothers who were super into it, and they were all like, rah, rah, let's go be pilots. But, as a woman in this environment, it's hard to kind of imagine this being a thing. The way that I grew up, that wasn't encouraged. And so it was, very much women could not like go to college or make their own decisions or have jobs and things like that. So I think it never really occurred to me I could actually go be a pilot or have a career in aviation because it was not presented to me as a thing, if that kind of makes sense. Yeah. So definitely an unusual path to get there.
So you end up building this career for yourself kind of anyway as a photographer. And before the stream started, we were like geeking out about like lenses and aperture.
Right, I know.
So then, I mean, what came next? Was it going to work as a broker, or was it getting your pilot's license? Like, where does that fit into the?
Yeah, absolutely. So the path I'm on now has been, I'm so lucky, and it's really cool. I didn't even I didn't work to find myself in this spot. I just actually fell into my lap. Out of high school, I started my business doing photography. It was the one thing that was encouraged. And I was like, oh, hey, I'll turn it into a business. And so it's actually been going strong for 8 years. I ended up going full time in it and traveling the country, and I shot weddings all over the world. So, everywhere from Mexico to Greece to 35 states to Canada. And so I really was able to make it, a success. But at the same time, I still had that passion for flying. And I wasn't even taking flight lessons at the time, but I knew it was something that would be super cool to do. I probably had 2 logged hours over time. And I vividly remembered, and this is the thing that always stuck in my mind. I went to Oshkosh as a kid, I was probably 9 years old. And I went on a Young Eagles flight, my first flight ever. And the pilot was a female pilot. And it just kept sticking in my head, if she can do that, why can't I? If she can do that, why can't I? And so for me, it was one of those things where I set my sights out and I was like, hey, I've already had one successful career. Why can't I have 2? So kind of interesting. No, you're good. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, I just wanted to show, you sent me some photos of you at work.
I do. Yeah.
You're at one of your jobs, and I just wanted to you're the real deal. And separately, if no one's ever done wedding photography, this woman is a saint, because weddings they're the hard. I work on $500,000, $1 million TV commercial sets, and I've never been as stressed out on one of those as I have been videotaping or photographing a wedding.
Oh gosh, it's funny. The secret is that I do all the planning. I tell them what to do beforehand. I'm like, hey, it's gonna be at this time, and we're gonna do this and that. But I've been very lucky, and I'm also a people person, and I'm overly nice to where they have to be nice back, but I also know kind of how to keep people in line. But all that being said, it can burn you out, which is what started to happen for me. So I started flight training back in 2018. The goal was to make a gradual retirement of sorts out of photography, and I was like, hey, I'll go be an airline pilot or something like that. And I figured it would be a long process. I didn't know really how I'd get there, but I just it seemed like something that I wanted to do, because that burning fire for aviation had never gone away, which, knowing now what I do know, it never goes away. You just give in, and it gets it gets more and more awesome. So yeah, I ended up doing some flight training and got about 35 hours in a Cessna 150. Love that plane. Definitely has its place in my heart as my first solo aircraft, and it was awesome. And then the company that I work for now, called Lifestyle Aviation, They are a broker based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and also the largest dealer for Diamond Aircraft. So we sell all over, but at the time it was just them. I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know that aircraft sales was a thing, right? I mean, when you're not in that, you're just like, well, how do people buy planes? Well, maybe like how they buy cars. So they go on Craigslist. Like, how does that work, right? And I had no idea. So I stumbled upon someone that worked there one day, and it ended up being, we just talked about the job, and he was just like, hey, I think you'd be a really good fit for this job. Are you interested? I really think that you should come work with us. And I was like, I don't know about that. I've never really thought about aircraft sales. He's like, no, really, I think you'd be a really good fit. Long story short, I ended up moving to Raleigh, taking the job, and my training got put on hold for a little while, but I began to grow in this amazing field, which is, aircraft sales. And it has been the most fulfilling thing. And I didn't even know it was an option before. And to me, it's just been a small piece of something that's a great avenue into aviation, and networking in aircraft sales has been incredible. So that's a bit, I would say, the short version of how I got to where I am now. But I am celebrating actually last week 2 years at my job now, and it's been amazing. Loved every minute of it.
That's awesome. And I think the fact that, like, for me, like 2 years is kind of like how long I have to give something before, like, to give it like a fair shake. So the fact that you're like still loving it 2 years in feels like all of those things that all those gamble you took in like moving and stuff is all paying off. This is kind of a ancillary question from, I posted on Instagram, right? Like, if you have any questions for Sharon, let us know. Sarah Clucky, who, by the way, Sarah, I saw on Instagram that you took your first flight lesson this past week, I think it was. So congratulations. You took it into J3, which you have some tailwheel time.
Yes.
We'll
Love
probably
that plane.
everyone in the chat's gonna be like, oh, if I always, as you know, I'm always bringing up J3 Cubs. She says two-part question. So I think we covered the first part. How did you become interested in becoming a broker? I think we covered that. But here's what the second part of our question was, what would the path to becoming a broker look like? Like, if someone wants to follow in your footsteps, like, what's the best way? I think, let's start there, because then I have questions about, like, what's it like? But let's start there. Like, how do you get down that path? Or if she wanted to do it, what recommendations would you have for her, maybe, is another way to ask it.
Absolutely. And honestly, I get that question almost every day. And it's been cool. Now that I've been in my company for a while, I've actually done some interviews from the other side. And so it's helpful to know what to look for in someone. Honestly, the biggest thing to look for is a personality type. In sales, it really is about aircraft sales. So I know people on Instagram, myself included, it's easy to post about, taking the cool flights, or flying here for this event, or, taking a client for barbecue for lunch, or taking the plane on a fun marketing flight. Like, that's all awesome and is 100% part of the job. But at the end of the day, it's phone calls and emails, and it's tracking numbers and reports and things like that. And it's very much like you have to be like a specific personality type. So for people that really get along well with other people and are super, you don't have to be an extrovert, but you have to be able to be motivated to talk to people and actually close the deal. You have to realize it is a sales job. So that's a big piece of that. And I think a lot of people come into it wanting to build flight time, which is another big thing that isn't really something sales is about. So sales is like its own spin-off in aviation. It's not a flying job. That being said, most of us do fly a lot every year, but you can't come into it with the idea of, hey, I'm here to build time, because that's really not, what it's about. It's all about the people. And if you're really good with people and you enjoy that, and you like the idea of helping people make a big decision that's going to 100% change their life, like, sales may be for you. And especially the way that my company operates, it's very much like a counselor approach. So we actually sit down and talk people through the entire process, start to finish. What do you need? What do you want? What's your dream? Like, what are your goals? And then, everything from financing to insurance to hangars, like there's so many little things involved. But honestly, being able to work with the people through that process is the best part. And if that piques your interest and it makes you super excited, then sales may be super good for you. I think the important thing to realize is that it's not predominantly a flying job, but everything everything that you're doing has to do with airplanes, which is really cool. So that's the big disclaimer that I put when I talk to people about, going into aircraft sales. But as far as how to do it, definitely having the right personality is super key. But then also, having that passion for flying and having some sales experience is really helpful. So if you've ever worked in car sales or real estate or something like that, having that on your resume is very helpful. Another thing that is really good is having all that pilot experience. I guess I'm a little bit of an exception. I came in as a student pilot. I went in more into a marketing role, especially to start with. But having pilot experience as much as you possibly can is only going to be an asset. So if you can go all the way through, get your CFI, and then if you can have that sales experience partnered with flight experience, that's really going to be something that any dealer or broker or manufacturer is going to want to look for.
And what's interesting about that, to me, what you just said too, what's weird is half of my job is sales, and it's cleared. It's the passion that you have for aviation is almost like the ultimate prerequisite, right? Because you got to be willing to nerd out. I'm assuming, I don't know, my stepdad is a realtor, and he loves houses, and I don't. And he was like, you should come be a realtor. And I was like, I don't care about bathrooms.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, so. And I think I kind of take it for granted that everyone watching is going to be crazy about aviation. I know I definitely am. And I tell people, if this was anything else, if this was watches or lamps or even a new Mercedes-Benz, this would be boring. I would not be doing this. As much as I enjoy that thrill of the sale, it's not what it's about. It's all about flying and having that passion that everything you're doing has to do with airplanes and helping people achieve something they've more than likely dreamed since they were a little kid. To me, that's definitely what it's about. And having that underlying foundation of just pure passion, for flying and the job, 100%, like you said, is what it's all about.
I mean, and I think the other thing, making a connection to the realtor side, maybe I'm curious about. I mean, especially with, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, with Diamond, these are high ticket item aircraft, they're luxury aircraft. Mm-hmm. The one I sat in one once, and I was like, wow,
which one did you sit in? Do you remember?
I think it was a DA-40. It was at a place that I was considering training at, and that was the flagship. And I remember they plop you in it, and you're like, whoa, all right, this feels a lot nicer than the other thing. It's a whole separate conversation about picking an instructor out. There's a lot of other red flags that popped up, but the aircraft was solid, and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. So we've got some, I think that's part of it, right? Is and I'll pull up some footage here. This is you in a DA-40 flying around. That's a plane. That's a plane, right?
That's beautiful and fun to fly. I'll tell you, these are one of the most fun planes you will ever fly. I'm lucky. I don't have a ton of hours in a plane, but I've gotten to fly quite a few different makes and models. And a DA-40, especially the NG, which is the one you see, that essentially just means that it burns Jet A as opposed to avgas. Super cool. It's the most intuitive and easy. It's definitely a pilot's airplane. It takes all that technology that we've learned in aviation in the last 50 to 70 years and packages it into one killer little single piston, and it's freaking awesome. So that's actually what I got my private in at Blue Line Aviation here in Raleigh. And highly recommend that plane, like spoiled for life.
Yeah, I mean, so I think when you talk about selling that, I guess what I'm curious about, right, is that, I mean, it's such a investment for folks, especially a newer one. Like, does it feel like you're selling them a house? Like, I mean, it's a pretty big, long process, or is it more like a car process where someone comes in and says, like, that's the one I want in blue, hook me up, Sharon?
It's definitely a process. Absolutely. And you definitely have it right. It's essentially you're getting another mortgage is kind of what it's like. But so, it's a long process. People never come in and like sign a contract on the spot. You have to walk them through it. And that's what makes it fun for us. We get to help encourage their dreams and goals through the process. But the biggest secret with these high dollar planes that people don't really think about when it comes to purchasing an airplane, so we can almost always find ways to get a beautiful tax write-off with the plane, and sometimes for the plane to pay for itself in multiple different ways. So sometimes the owners are flying essentially for free, and that's the fun part of it. And that's honestly the thing that people don't realize the most about buying an airplane is there are so many creative ways that you can put a plane to use for a business you may not even know you have. And I think that's the cool part about those high dollar airplanes is it opens up a huge amount of opportunity for a creative space for helping someone to own a plane, if that makes sense.
It's like you're reading my mind, because I was going to say, which obviously we're not going to do the math on the show, but I have a shoot coming up, a film shoot on a cow farm, very glamorous, in Kansas.
Nice.
But it's in literally, it's like what general aviation is born for, right? Like it's in
100%.
the middle of a bunch of farm fields. There's no actual like commercial airport anywhere nearby.
Yep.
The closest GA airport is like a 45-minute drive away. And the first thing the producer that I'm working with asked me is like, "Hey, you fly planes, right?" And I was like,
"Can you fly us there?"
Yeah, he's like, "Can you fly us there?" I was like, "Well, there's there's these rules, and also there's 4 of us and like hundreds of pounds of gear. Like, I probably can't.
Take like 5 trips, it'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll just go back and forth a lot.
Perfect.
But right, like that conversation sends me down the path of, like maybe someday with my business, my non-YouTube part of my life, maybe there is a twin or something like that can get me there fast, get me there reliably, that I can use as a tool, and then it becomes a tax write-off. It becomes a way to actually operate as opposed to just like a toy."
Absolutely. And there are so many things people don't know about writing off an airplane. Like, just for one of the random things I'll tell you is you can write off the entire thing. If it qualifies, you can write it all off in 1 second, just like that. Or you can schedule it out, or you can go back 5 years. Like, there are so many options. As of this filming date, it's never been better than it is right now. And yeah, like you said, another really cool thing about flying, and this is just across the board, really anywhere you're going to be traveling within like 500 to 700 miles of your home airport. By the time you were going to take a commercial flight, unless you live right at a hub, the time you take a commercial flight and go sit in security and then go wait for 2 hours or an hour and then go to a hub and then get bounced around for 6 or 7 hours, you can fly yourself there much faster than you could by, doing something commercial, especially in a situation like you mentioned where there's no airport even available close by. So talked to probably 4 different clients today with that exact profile where they have that business use for it, and they just need to go in the middle of nowhere. And guess what? We're creating some really cool strategies for them. And I think that's the part of my, like, what I do every day that lights me up, because you're doing something that's truly going to make a difference for people. I told someone the other day, I was like, when I first sat down to interview for my job that I have now, my boss asked me, my now boss was like, "So you never even like heard of aircraft sales? Why do you want to do this?" And I was like, well, first of all, you guys asked me to, but second of all, my goal is always to make a difference, always been to make a difference in aviation, no matter what that looks like. I'll find it along the way. And in sales, you know, doing what I do now, I truly feel like I make a difference. The day I stop feeling that way is the day I quit, but I have not had that day yet. And based on the feedback I get from my clients and the people I talk to every day who make life so cool, I don't think it's going to, I don't think it's going to happen for a while. And there's just so many creative ways to own a plane. And that's the part that just I get super excited to share.
While we've been talking about this, people are deciding which aircraft I should buy for my business. A lot of them are a bit maybe more expensive than what you're selling, I think.
Oh, let's hear some names. I'll help you evaluate it right now. Let's do this.
They're saying that's not why I wanted to get on there. This isn't a trick to get you to sell me a plane.
Hey, there was not a trick. If it gets you to buy a plane, I'm all for it. I'm just kidding.
All right. Wait, there's a good comment I wanted to share with you first. I scrolled down in the feed here. It was from Zach Sherman, our resident dad joke guy. But he's like, he's like 6 years old. He's a full grown adult. I'm just joking. Where is it? I can't find it now to put it on the screen. He said something funny. It was like, oh, like Sharon's so good, she's selling us on sales. And she has me sold on sales. Oh, here it is. This is great. This is great TV. Boom. Oh, Zach, that's really big. I gotta shrink that down.
You can even sell sales. Well, it's a compliment. Thank you. Honestly, I just talk about things that I'm passionate about, and I just like to talk, evidently. So, yeah, come join me. Taking applications, right?
Dude, he would be good. Okay, so here's what everyone's saying in the chat. They're saying I should, because I want to do this one. This is what you guys are selling right now. That's a beautiful airplane.
Yeah.
I don't even know anything about the performance of Diamond aircraft. I just like the way they look.
Can't fault you for that.
Hashtag not a sponsor, right? What they're saying here is King Air, Kodiak, PC-12.
Okay, turbo stuff, like it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I need to. Here's the thing. I just want to remind everyone, to write it off, you also need to have made it. Sorry, I don't have that much money yet. Those are big. That's big. Kodiak on amphibs? Why do I need amphibs to go to Kansas? You guys are great. All right. Anyway.
So if you can't yet afford it yourself or through your business, then we help you create a way to create a business around that airplane. And I can't spill too many secrets on here, but your options are endless, my friend. We can talk.
All right. I'm apologizing to Zach in the chat for saying he's 6 years old. So
I tell people I'm a 5-year-old at heart. Truly, I really am.
Well, all of us as pilots are, right? So, okay, we're going heavy down the sales. I love this. I want to keep talking about this. So, I mean, like, this is your life, right? You're flying in these. Not all the time. You said you were candid. It's not always flying, but you're flying in some pretty awesome aircraft.
Yeah.
Is there how has this job changed your personal outlook on aviation?
Huge, more than I could even sum up. I think one of the things people don't realize is that when you're flying, people think planes or general aviation, and this is partially the fault of the news media. Everything that you see is, Cessna 172 Skyhawk crashes in a field, or Piper Cherokee, if they even get it right. They'll throw out these names that really, general aviation doesn't really get good press ever. And there have been plenty of accidents, as we know. And I think one of the biggest things that I've realized through what I do is there is so much technology we have learned in aviation and just in the world in general in the last 50 to 70 years since most of the aircraft that we see flying were certified. And I love older planes. I fly the heck out of a Cub. I will always do that. That's awesome. But that being said, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned that is really cool is that there's so much safe technology now in aircraft that can make flying so much better when it comes to safety and, getting insured and having that peace of mind. I think that's one of the biggest things is just the safety aspect of a lot of the modern aircraft, and that's what Diamond does especially, is really cool. And I think that's something that you just don't really see talked about very much right now.
Does that then change? I mean, so you brought up tail wheel flying. I'm going to pull up a video here. Like, here's you, like, jamming out in a J3.
That was so cool. Yeah.
Like, do your, I mean, and by the way, this is what J3s are made for, is the flight.
100%.
The training that you're doing here is amazing. That slip, oh, it's a good slip. Okay, sorry. So, like,
love it.
Let's say tomorrow you decide, hey, the photography gig is like blowing up again. I want to get back into that. Does your experience as a broker, and particularly maybe for Diamond, change the flying that you do in the future? You talked a little bit about safety. Does that, like, has it changed your perspective on stick and rudder thing? Like, would it change your behavior now?
Yeah.
As a pilot moving forward?
Absolutely. I think that for myself personally, I'm always going to fly, things like the J3 Cub for fun. We know as pilots, there's an element of accepted risk when it comes to flying.
Sure.
And that you can never completely mitigate that. We're humans in the air. Like, that's always going to be a thing. And so I think, I'm never going to stop tail wheel flying or doing that kind of thing. That being said, for myself personally, whenever I have the chance, I'm going to, for example, if I own a plane down the road, my first plane will probably be a DA-40 or something very similar, probably a DA-40, because of those key safety elements. For example, I'm terrified of fires, horrified, as people should be for the most part. And Diamond has completely eliminated post-crash fires, which is a huge element of why fatalities often happen in crashes. So for myself personally, I'm going to find a way to structure a way to own a plane or have a share in a plane that has a higher safety aspect than maybe something that was designed a long time ago for those purposes, especially if I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling. That being said, like I said, you can never completely mitigate all risk associated with flying. And there will always be planes like Piper Cubs and Cyprias and, all those cool planes. They will, they will always be there, and we will always want to fly them. And so I think you have to have a balance there.
Got it. I'm tracking with you now. Okay. So before I want to talk more about your flying career in general outside of Diamond, but folks, if you have any questions, obviously we have Sharon is an expert on Diamond aircraft. So if you have any questions about Diamonds, let's tap into that knowledge. But
how about it? Come at me.
I mean,
I'm talking all day.
No, I mean, for me, I guess the thing I wonder about a lot is, and Nick, sorry, I'm going to take Nick Moore. Thank you, Nick, for the super sticker. I appreciate that, man. Pair character sliding on the floor on his knees saying goal. Whatever that looked like for you guys on your end. So if I look at, for instance, like, here's maybe a good question that you probably get a lot is, so right now I'm flying a 172, an older one, but I've flown newer ones too. That's kind of like the classic experience for most pilots. You did your training in a Diamond, which is super cool. A couple people in the chat have said that they trained in Diamonds or know people who did. If you were to like just maybe compare to like what the classic Cessna experience is to what maybe the classic Diamond experience is, just to differentiate, because I think people look at them, like I look at them and I say, wow, that's super pretty. They're all super pretty. They got the winglets, the long, like, glidery wings, and they're so smooth and, like, whatever. But, like, what does that translate to me as a pilot? Like, stick and rudder, what does that do? How does that do that? Or what? You get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that question a lot. So Disclaimer, no, I'm never anti-aircraft. I'm never that plane's a bad plane. My company actually sells all kinds of planes. We choose to sell Diamond as new aircraft because we love them and think that they're awesome. But we'll sell pretty much anything that's built in this century, kind of how we call it. So pretty much 2005 and newer. That being said, I have about, 35 or 40 hours in 150s, 172s. And honestly, the transition from the 150 to a DA40 was really, really easy. I think the only thing that was difficult, I came from a steam gauge to that G1000 glass panel. That took some time. I think it's a little harder to go from steam gauge to glass, I don't know if you've experienced that, than it is to go backwards. So there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve there. That being said, even though everything is different about a Diamond, so, their low wing versus high wing, their stick versus yoke, their canopy versus doors, like there's so much that's different about them. They feel very much like I said, they feel very much like a pilot's airplane. They're extremely intuitive. So they have that push rod control system as opposed to cable and pulley. So extremely intuitive when it comes to controlling the stick. You'll get it in 5 seconds. Like that's a non-item. The canopy just means you have additional visibility. I loved the canopy when I first started, to fly in it. So the DA40 would be comparable to a 172 type thing, but it's hard to even call it a transition. I think it's easier to fly. The DA40 is a lot, in my opinion, easier to fly. The only thing that would be a little bit of a hurdle, which is any newer plane you're going to fly, would be to go to the G1000 or a similar panel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because I have to say it again, did my training in J3s. I'm used to those round gauges. And then
that's totally different. Like that's a completely different world. Like I almost feel like that's its own separate like category. You know what I mean? Like
it really does. I mean, it is.
You're gonna turn it on its side at 90 degrees, like slip it in, land it in 40 feet, or if you want to do it that way, obviously. Like that's not even, it's awesome. It's like raw flying, and it's freaking fantastic. But that being said, you're not really gonna fly across the country in a J3 Cub.
Nope. I mean, I know people who did, but like their butts hurt a lot.
Book a chiropractor appointment afterwards, right?
Right. So okay. So I think that transition though, like for me, I still struggle with a glass display. It mostly comes to do with like trimming and things like that. And I think for me it's like there's a lot more data coming at you, so then it's easy to chase, right? As opposed to like an altimeter which reacts, a steam gauge. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm making this up. You tell me if this sounds real to you. Like for me with a steam gauge, it's like, oh, like I'm at this altitude. Oh, cool, I still am. And then when I fly the glass panel aircraft, it's like, oh, I'm climbing 10 feet. Crap, I better
you find yourself chasing your heading in altitude. So like anything in aviation and in airplanes, the thing to remember about those glass panels and everything else in the airplane is you never use them all at once. So you can look at all the panels and dials and all the stuff and just be like, oh, this looks so complicated. I'm so overwhelmed. Like, what am I supposed to do here? You never use them all at once. You just learn what to touch when, and it's pretty intuitive after the fact. So I would say it's probably the easiest part of that is just learning. This is where the steam gauge equivalents are. So it's not too bad.
Right. Also, learning what to touch when is basically what parenting is, like what you're teaching your kids. I feel like my entire daily experience is like, don't touch that. Please touch that. Don't do that. Please do that. All right. We open the floodgates. Oh, it's the worst. Why is there poop on you?
Yeah, I think flying would be a little easier. You can program the plane. The child's probably not going to listen.
Probably not. Okay, we got some good diamond questions now from folks. And then I want to talk more about like your other flying that you do. Okay. Chucky Fly's asking for a full fuel payload and range, but you're going to say which one?
Mm-hmm.
So Chucky Fly, or go ahead.
So if we're talking, let's just say the flagship plane everybody dreams about. So the DA-62, we're looking at a 5 to 7 seat plane. The cool thing about that one is it's going to fly way further than your bladder would ever hold. So, for example, I was flying back from Tennessee the other day, a couple days ago, and I put it on my Instagram because it's just cool to think about. We had like four fully grown adults, 3 of them men, full bags, full fuel. And we could still fly all the way to the Bahamas from Tennessee, all the way to Maine from Tennessee, from Tennessee, and have plenty of fuel to get to where we need to go without any stops at all. But the cool thing is that the load on that, so a 62, it's 1,000 pounds with the mains full. So if you fill up your main tanks completely, you have 1,000 pounds to split, between everything you need. So 1,600 pounds as an empty weight plane.
Gotcha. All right, we're gonna do this. I didn't mean for this to be 20 questions, but what we're doing it. 72 Papa and a couple other people are wondering. You talked about the post-crash fire thing. They're asking about could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Absolutely. And like I said before, this is probably my favorite thing about diamonds because post-crash fires are deadly. You don't typically survive that. So Diamond, when they designed their aircraft, they essentially went to the drawing board with all the best engineers they could find from the other manufacturers who were no longer at those places. And they said, how can we go through all of the NTSB reports and similar and design a plane that doesn't do those things? So Diamond took 2 approaches to safety. They took passive safety and active safety. So passive safety, to where the plane will fly itself. It's very forgiving and it allows you to mess up without doing too much, just a safe airplane. Then active safety, to where if we do make mistakes as pilots, which we sometimes do, the plane will do everything in its power to keep you safe if you do put it into the ground or something like that. So post-crash fires were eliminated by keeping the fuel tanks very safely secured in the wings. So instead of just having a wet wing, as you would typically have in any other plane, inside the composite wing, you have 2 separate fuel spars, and the fuel is in a bladder or a tank in between those 2 spars. And so essentially, the first spar will stop essentially any impact that happens and keeps the fuel from spilling out. It's got really strong braided fuel lines. And then if there's anything that's more than that, the wings are made to just come off completely. So if you were to go through the NTSB reports for Diamond crashes or anything like that, there's only been 1 instance of a fire, and that was when the person essentially just flew it into a cliff, and there was really no getting around that one. So it's really cool how they've done that by separating the fuel system entirely and creating a system where fuel does not spill at all. They've eliminated the engine meeting the fuel on the outside and causing a fire.
Got it. And that is kind of the key part, right? Is keep the hot stuff away from the burny stuff.
Exactly.
You can use that.
Keep the hot stuff away from the burning stuff. I like it. It's going to go on a t-shirt.
You can have that one for free. Okay.
I'll give you the
one last Diamond question, and then I want to talk more about your flying, what you've got planning to do next. Where is it, guys? Someone was asking about electric or hybrid. Nicholas Lambert. Does Diamond have any electric or hybrid aircraft in the works?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, I probably am not really allowed to talk much about what's really in the works because there's still so much coming down the pipe that we're still excited about. For example, we're excited about the DA50, which is going to be at Oshkosh this year and about to be certified, and that's going to be a really big deal. It's going to be another single-engine plane, Jet A burning, going to be awesome. So I can't necessarily directly answer that question, but I think general aviation is going to go that direction in the future. As we know, aviation takes a long time to do anything, so I wouldn't expect to see that anytime in the next decade, realistically.
I lied because you teed it up. David Anderson says, DA50, give us the scoop.
DA50. So essentially, the cabin of a DA62 with a single engine It's going to be a Continental 300 horsepower engine, and it's going to be pretty awesome. It's not yet FAA certified, so we're not taking orders yet. But after Oshkosh, we should be able to take those orders. And again, the key to all the diamonds that I'm talking about is that they burn jet fuel. So you're not putting avgas in that at all. They burn jet fuel. They're essentially Mercedes engine blocks. Like, that's what they are, as a diesel engine. So no hot starts, no cold starts, no spark plugs, no magnetos. Like, it's essentially just a car engine, a diesel car engine. So again, that's the key to all these planes that I'm talking about. So that's what's going to be super cool about this plane. It's going to be a large single, can seat 5 people with plenty of payload, and that long glider style wing that's going to be safe, just like the 62. So we're excited about it.
That's super cool, and I hopefully we'll meet there, like, because we
That's
didn't meet
awesome.
at Sun and Fun, and you can be like, look at this sweet thing, and I'll be like, wow, help me figure out a way to afford this. All right, so let's talk.
Figure it out.
I love it. Every week someone sells me a different plane, but I think you might have the most expensive fleet that you're working on. Okay, so let's talk about you though.
Yeah.
You're flying, so you just did your tailwheel training. Like, what's on the docket next? Like, where are you headed next with your personal flying?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the thing that I really encourage people when I'm talking about my flying is that everybody's story is different. So when I finished up my pilot's license not too long ago, it was kind of funny because most of my flight instructors started flying after I did, and they're already CFIs who are well on their way building time. It took me about 2 years. I took a break, and I didn't train for about 1.5 years. So everybody's story is different, and I'm not the kind of person that's just going all out and getting all of my things in 6 months. That being said, I do definitely plan to go all the way up through CFI. I think it's going to make me a better pilot, obviously, and it's going to help me to be able to better serve people who do want to buy planes. And, even if I one day am not in aircraft sales, having that flight experience is just going to help me overall. So I think for the immediate future, I would really like to get my seaplane. I know that's like a fun thing, and people always talk about it. I have a couple different opportunities and might try to get it, this summer or something like that. And I'm starting on my instrument. It's definitely a must-do for every pilot, as far as I'm concerned. So hope to have that by summer. I'm hoping sometime mid-summer-ish. And then commercial CFI, I'd like to do that all within the next year or two, but not the fast track program. However, it's going to happen. I'm excited about it.
That's awesome. And I was going to say, I bet like the CFI thing really does help, because you can be like, you want to go, like, you want to see what it's like?
Yeah.
Hop in, dude. Like, let me get you some logbook time in here, right?
And you can check the people out on the planes too, which is awesome. That being said, it's not essential. You don't have to have it to be in sales, but I think it can only help. I'm the kind of person that the more knowledge you can bring to the table, I think only the more of an asset you're going to be. So,
rock on. Okay, so some folks are saying you should totally do the seaplane. That looks like fun. Martin Polly says that would be fun. There's so many more places you can fly to. Yes. And then Jonathan Christman, thank you as well. Thank you, Jonathan, for that super sticker. Appreciate it, man. I'm a little tired tonight. Okay, Sharon, before we wrap up for the night, you know the drill. Can we play a game real quick before we?
I love games. Let's play a game.
All right, we're gonna play a short final. You know the drill. You can answer whatever you want. There are no points. You've already won. I'm gonna put on some.
Love that. Do I get a trophy at the end, though? That's my question.
I can give you. I don't have it. I was gonna try to give you one preemptively. I can give you a patch, like a sweet patch.
Oh, I don't know. I'm for that. That would be awesome.
Let's give you a sweet patch. All right. Here we go. We're gonna get the music on. Bam. Gonna get this thing going over here. Bam. All right, Sharon Raub. It's time for short final. What's the favorite airport you've ever landed at?
Probably Kitty Hawk North Carolina. Gotta go there. It's a mecca for all pilots.
Gotta check that out. What about your favorite passenger you've ever had?
Favorite passenger? Probably any time that I've flown with anyone in my family, so one of my friends.
What's the most underrated part about being an aircraft broker?
Most underrated part is that you get to work remotely a lot, which is awesome, and you get to just hang out with cool planes literally all day, every day.
That second one doesn't seem like it's underrated. That seems like exactly where we want it. All right.
That's too true.
Let's talk about photography for a second. What's the best lens to use to photograph an aircraft?
24 to 70, 2.8 IS2.
Is that a Canon? Are you Canon or are you Sony?
I'm Canon. Does that make me not welcome?
No, this is being filmed on a Canon right now. I just switched. I just switched though.
I knew we could be friends. Oh man. So do you have that Canon mount that goes from the Sony to Canon?
I did, yeah. That's what I was using at Sun and Fun, and it's not as I miss filming on Canon, but this new Sony video stuff's just like that's a whole second show, Sharon. Us nerding out about cameras.
I know. I feel like I'm opening Pandora's box right now because all this camera gear stuff. I've been doing this a while, and so it'd be fun to talk about.
So what camera body are you using right now?
So I still have the cameras I've been shooting on for about 4 years, and they are 2 Canon 5D Mark IIIs. That being said, I would love to update to the Canon mirrorless. We'll see. I have 13 weddings this year, but not that many on the books for next year because I haven't really marketed for 2 years. If I was going to stay in it full time, I'd definitely upgrade. But as it is right now, I'm still sitting on that one.
Yeah, I get it. That R, you're talking about the Canon R?
R6, I think, is the new one.
Oh, yeah. So
yeah,
if it was a better video camera, I would be in it. But yeah, I got a FX3. It's like an A7S3 in a different body. I would have showed it to you at Sun and Fun.
Man, Oshkosh. We're going to have to do Oshkosh. We're going to have
Absolutely.
to make it cool.
Awesome. Well, Sharon, this has been awesome.
It has been super cool. I feel like this is so great being able to be on the show and talk to you. You're kind of like this awesome, you're a really positive force in aviation. And guys, he didn't pay me to say this, although maybe you should though. I'm just kidding. No, you're.
I'll get out the money. Oh, I don't have my wallet. Okay, next time, right? I'll send it through the camera.
Venmo. I'll text you my Venmo. No, you seriously, you're really positive force in aviation, and thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, this is such. I mean, just to reminisce on the 1 year thing. Like, this has been one of the highlights of my year, right? It's like my kids, my wife, and SuperAero, and all the people at home who are watching us right now. That's been really cool, and they're freaking out in the chat. So we're gonna ask you one more question. Sorry, that's the problem with this show. I'm always distracted. Marty wants to know. He says, "OMG, SuperAero, are you not going to ask North Up or Track Up?"
Ooh. So I'm a North Up kind of girl. Is that bad?
I'm a North Up person.
I just feel like it makes everything easier. I feel like it makes it all easier. There. That's it.
Besties. All right. Sharon, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Everyone else at home, thank you so much for watching. It's awesome to have you. I think we had kind of a higher number this week, which is super great. Be sure to share this with your friends, especially if they're looking to buy an airplane. They should call Sharon and buy one. She'll tell them how the taxes work. And then separately, come on down and do it, right?
Right.
Share the episode with everybody. Subscribe. There's like 60% of you that watch this don't subscribe, which blows my mind. That would help me a lot. And yeah, just, let's keep it going. I appreciate sharing the comment about the positivity. That's like, we're all part of the same Sky fam, and I just hope that we can keep working together, all of us. So
absolutely, thanks for being so awesome, and thanks for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it. It was awesome.
No, You come back and let's come back and just only nerd out about the DA50 when it's time. I think everyone will love that.
Let's do it. Let's put it on the schedule. We'll nerd out about it.
Awesome. All right. see you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye.